And a good football Friday, football fans. This is your Bird 365 duo, Mac and Mac, McMullen and McDonald, here to hang with you for the next couple hours. As I said at the end of yesterday's show, we got double D's popping out today. That would be DeCecco and Damwich. Our two guests will join us over the next 2 hours. J-Mac don't usually do this, but I'm going to start here today. Going to alert one of our loyal streamers, Billiano Fever, who chimes in from time to time. He's already chimed in again today. I'm going to tell him, yeah, just go ahead and feel free to just sign out, because he's looking forward to both John McMullen and Jody McDonald picking up the pom-poms and cheering for the new Eagle linebacker signing.
Yeah. You might want to find a different show. Yeah.
You can stream right out right now, because we're not going to knock her. We're not going to mock her. We're not going to pull our hair out. And that's something that neither John nor I could do. But we're not just going to, this is like the greatest linebacker ever. Why? Because he signed yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't work that way with me, and I'm 99% sure it doesn't work that way with John either. We're going to give you our honest opinion. And if our honest opinion is, then we're going to give that to you. We're not just going to stand here on the sidelines and shake our pom-poms because the Eagles made a move. I'm a bigger Barkley fan than John is, the signing. He's a bigger Huff fan signing than I am. I fear that this is Jason Babin part 2. We both like CJGJ coming back, and the fact that the Eagles admitted, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have let him out the door the first time. Good on Howie Roseman. That's one of Howie's strengths. He doesn't let previous decisions affect future decisions. So good on him and the organization for that. Devin White he's a guy. He's a Jag, just a guy. You're gonna
but Jody, he was the 5th overall pick one time.
Don't.
Big name.
You know how I get ticked off about guys being pigeonholed, both positively and negatively for their draft status.
The
a year in,
draft,
2 years in, where you've been out for 5 years. I'm sorry. Where you were drafted becomes completely irrelevant.
And this is a perfect example of what everybody defaults to it and assumes and makes excuses and this and that. We got one guy on the stream who said he's been a good linebacker for 4 out of 5 years. He was a good linebacker for 3 stinking games in one of the biggest anomalies in NFL history, their run to the Super Bowl. He played like he was the 5th pick in the draft. He's been terrible in the regular season. And if somebody wants to bring up he was 2nd team All-Pro in whatever year it was, that's a blight on the All-Pro voters. And why I yell at Rob Monty? It's not Rob's fault, but he should remove some of those people. He's been an awful linebacker. He hasn't been a good linebacker for 4 of 5 years. He's been an abject failure on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And people, I love the PFF hate when they say a player stinks. When they tell you Lane Johnson is great, they're great. When they tell you Jordan Mailata is great, they're great. And by the way, they're right. When they say a player's really good, they're right. And when they say a player's really bad, they're right. And you can spend the $99 and go get NFL Plus and watch this guy play in any single game. And I recommend you all do that. Now, is he athletic? Tremendously athletic. Might be the most athletic player the Eagles have ever had playing linebacker. His PFF grades, Jody, let me get them for you.
I think
First year, 68 out of 90 as a rookie. His All-Pro year, I put that in quotes, 62 out of 83. 21, 79 out of 86. 2022, 74 out of 81. 2023, last season, 80 out of 82. That is consistent poor play. And if you got some conspiracy theory that PFF PFF has got something against Devin White. I don't know what to do, but I'll say this: sit back and watch, because this guy's never in the right spot.
Yeah, and having athletic skills and traits is a good thing. It doesn't always equate to being a good football player in the National Football League. It just doesn't. People get drafted on that, people get talked up on that. But then when you have 5 years, a body of work of 5 years in the National Football League, that not only outweighs, it completely eliminates what kind of an athlete you are. I want to know what kind of a player you are. I don't care how good an athlete you are. A lot of times those two things go hand in hand, but not always. And it hasn't in the case of Devin White. Now, here's what I'll say in defense of the Eagles. They need bodies. They have two linebackers under contract right now, one of which is Nakobe Dean, who we have no idea where he is physically right now. We assume he's going to be good to go for camp and then good to go for the season. And Ben Van Sumeren, who's a nice hustler, who's a pretty good special teams player, who actually played a couple of snaps last year and didn't embarrass himself. He didn't like grab the spotlight and say, hey, you guys need to think about using me from the line of scrimmage. It was nothing awe-inspiring. But that's it. They had two linebackers under contract. So they need guys, just bodies. They need people to compete. If Devin White's going to be one of them, okay, fine. I'm just not setting my expectations very high for all the reasons that you just ran down. He has not been a good player. I give him more than 3 games. I give him the last quarter of the season.
Well, you know why he was a second-team All-Pro, actually, Jody? Because he had 9 sacks as a linebacker. That was a second-team All-Pro. And that tells you and I are, and I'm not trying to pick on you about the sack numbers. Well, if you blitz a guy 100 times, yeah, he's going to get a bunch of sacks. It's really not that relevant. So when people see splash plays and then, they watch the highlights and say, oh, this guy. And then, meanwhile, in the guts of the game, he's getting destroyed in the running game because he's not a very football IQ savvy linebacker. He's not instinctive. He's not in the right spots. He's getting killed in the passing game despite the athleticism because, again, he doesn't have a feel for it. But, yeah, he's athletic. So occasionally he'll make a splash play. And maybe that helps. Maybe that helps because one of the things that stood out about the Eagles defense last year, which we constantly talked about, was the lack of speed on the back end. He's got speed, but then again, so is Ben Van Sumeren. Ben's got a tremendous athletic profile, but he's very raw, and he wasn't the 5th overall pick in the draft. But, think about that, Jody. If you're the 5th overall pick in the draft and you've had 4 of 5 good seasons, as one of the streamer comments says, and you're ready to get your second contract, you're past your 5th-year option, you don't think you're going to cash in this league, even at a position of, look at Patrick Queen, had a good year, probably got a little bit less than he wanted, but it's still pretty significant at the top of the market.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's past the first wave. He's signing a 1-year prove-it deal. What does that tell you? With a tremendous, and by the way, when you see this deal, 1 year 7.7, it ain't 1 year 7, it's 1 year up to $7.5 million. What does that tell you?
He's got to earn it, and I'm not sure that he will. Don't know what the incentives are going to be. The devil is in the details, and we'll have to wait for those details. Because they had a desperate need for linebacker, and he is a starting linebacker in the league, I'm not going to knock the signing. I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and go, okay, you got work to do still at linebacker. I was actually kind of surprised that they would give, and again, we don't know the money. It's a 1-year deal. I thought that they'd probably retain Zach Cunningham, which they still could. They can still sign Cunningham. Cunningham's still out there with the fact that how he went out of the way to kind of single him out after the season was over and done with and give him credit for his level of play last year. I thought they'd probably go there rather than reach for a guy like Devin White. And again, I don't want to just belittle it to the point of this is a massive mistake because they needed linebackers. Do I think we're going to be here on Birds 365, week 6 of the season, going, yeah, Devin White has been a major contributor to the first 5 games? No, I'm betting against that. I just don't think he's that good a football player. And one thing that scares me about the Eagles so far this offseason and how he's been aggressive and he's filled holes. Has he filled them completely? We don't know yet, but he has signed guys at positions that they have needs. The thing that, and John, you like to touch on this, and it's a line that you use, and I borrowed many a time. Nobody worries about stopping the run until they need to stop the run. And the Philadelphia Eagles, with their signings this year, their 3 big defensive signings in Huff, CJ, GJ, and now Devin White, aren't worried about stopping the run. They're, in my money, my book, all undervalued players as far as stopping the run goes. Jordan Davis better be like the second coming of, well, at least Devin White did play with the kid down in Tampa, who's probably the best run-stopping defensive tackle in the National Football League.
Yeah, that's not, by the way, that's not a good sign either. When you're not good against the run. And oh, by the way, you're playing behind Vita Vea.
Right.
That even exacerbates it even further. But yeah, if you want to look at his grade, as I said, overall 80 of 82. Pass rusher is 38th. Coverage, he was 51st. Run defense, 82nd.
So he's well below average in the run. CJGJ's, he's aggressive, but his number one skill is ball hawking, and he does come up with turnovers. He does come up with interceptions. I would not call him a run-stopping safety. And you know I have my issues about Bryce Huff and the fact that he's a one-dimensional, one-directional player. Into the backfield, speed pass rushing. He's not going to be stalwart against the run. The Eagles, if I'm another team's offensive coordinator and I'm looking through the offseason moves and looking at the other team's rosters, how am I going to beat this team? Yeah, the first thing I'm thinking, if I'm the Redskins or the Cowboys, or not that the Redskins or the Cowboys, Commanders or the Cowboys have done anything to upgrade their running game, but I'm going to be looking to run the football against the Eagles as of next year.
Yeah, the Eagles would like that, believe it or not. But I hear what you're saying. And, you know, if we fast forward to December and it's the playoffs, I probably even agree with you. But the Eagles would probably like that, at least early in the season, because they have their issues. Let's be honest. They have their issues in the secondary and in the back seven. And if they're like, oh, you're going to run the football, we'll take that. And it's that mentality of smaller margin of error. You know, great. If you're taking a lead like that one Washington game where they won, where they're averaging 3.3 yards per carry, but it was literally 3 yards, and then first down, and they find a way to keep the ball for the entire game. There might be that anomaly of a game, but the Eagles would actually prefer that, you know, maybe even invite that to try to keep their deficiencies in the secondary on the back end, and thinking, hey, we got Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and now we got Saquon Barkley. We're going to outscore people, so we can give up a few points. That would be my guess. They would invite that. But where I think Huff is different. Huff is a projection. I mean, he's a projection, and they might get it wrong. They might get it right, but he's never been asked to do. I mean, he was a one-trick pony with the Jets. As you know, Jody, he was a situational pass rusher, played 440 snaps. His job was to go after the quarterback, and he did a good job with that. His pressure percentages are off the charts, near the top of the league. Now the Eagles are saying, we think he could be a full-time player. Are they right? Maybe. Are they wrong? Maybe. But that's the projection. They think he's going to be able to be a full-time player and hold his water in the run game and all that kind of stuff. This guy's not a projection. He's played a lot of football and given a lot of opportunities, and he has been consistently poor in that aspect of the game. I know Xander had it yesterday. What were the numbers against the run, Xander? If you can pop them in the chat. He's been bottom 5 run defender in the NFL at linebacker for year after year after consistently poor.
Right.
You let him go in the pass rush because of his athleticism. He's going to stand out occasionally in that aspect of it. But again, we're talking about the Big Fangio scheme. How is that a fit? Now they're going to start blitzing off ball linebackers like they're Wink Martindale or Brian Flores. I mean, this is weird. And my assumption is when I get to talk to Howie down the road at some point, it'll be, we tried to get insert name. It didn't work out. Those guys went in a different direction. We had to add somebody, as you mentioned, and they added Devin White. And the positives are tremendously athletic. So, if they can harness that, Godspeed.
That's nice for like a superstars competition. I'm worried about what he's going to do on the football field on Sundays. I don't care how athletic he grades out in things not above and beyond or around football. And the guy I think they missed out on, and I said it here on Birds 365, a guy I thought they should make a play for, and I thought signed a relatively inexpensive contract, was Willie Gay, a guy who only got 8 tackles in the Super Bowl against the Eagles 2 years ago. The Chiefs decided not to make him a good enough offer. He tested free agency and ended up signing for under $5 million. The deal being reported as a 1 year, somewhere between 3 and 5, 3 up to 5, kind of like White's contract is up to $7.5 million, which means it's not going to be 7 to start. On paper, he's going to have to earn that, which John and I, sorry, we're just projecting here. Don't think he's going to get to, because don't think he's going to come in here and star, but we shall see. If he does, I'll eat my words. Willie Gay is a better linebacker than Devin White. So if their contracts are anywhere near close, and I think White's will come in at heavier than Gay's contract, that's how he misjudging the market. That he thought that he could go somewhere else and get somewhere else. And by that time, Gay was off the board, having gone to New Orleans. So I don't think he got the best of the linebacker market. He got a jag. He got just a guy today with the signing of Devin White. That's my opinion. That's John's opinion. We'll add a third opinion. Coming up next is our buddy Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com and podcast. Oh, I can see him smiling. I can see it. I think he's a big Devin White fan. No,
I'm going to guess Andrews on our side, but I don't want to muddy the waters, so we'll let him speak.
Don't want to put words in his mouth. We'll let him do that himself. Andrew DeCecco, InsideTheBirds.com. Up next here on Birds 365.